What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Square Enix and them doing exactly what I thought they would be doing post the whole Crystal Dynamics, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex $300 million controversy slash sale. But before we get into any of that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and talk about Square Enix, one of my favorite developers of all time. And not too long ago, people were looking at Square Enix and giving them a lot of heat because of the whole sale of Tomb Raider and Crystal Dynamics and Deus Ex and a lot of their Western IP that they've owned for quite some time now. People criticize them for various different aspects of that. One, saying that the sale was for too little of money. Two, saying that, oh, well, they're going to invest all into NFTs, and people went crazy with that, saying that Square Enix doesn't know what they're doing and they're going to be bought off, and just all sorts of stuff with that. So I was looking at it from the standpoint as someone who's always loved Square Enix titles pretty much since day one when I first played Final Fantasy, and then later once I got into Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana and a lot of their other IP. Square Enix has been around for decades. Square Enix is a company that has the tools, the resources, the IP, the sales, and the status to be just fine if they leverage what they do best and if they focus on what they do best. And I personally felt that the sale of Crystal Dynamics and everything there was to cut off the fat, right? So some people, okay, now this is not necessarily a bad thing when I say cut off the fat, but some people like fat on their T-bone steak or on their chicken, the skin, or whatever the case is. And some people don't. Some people can focus in without it, and then some people like it. And for me, I felt that Square Enix would be better, and I felt that Square Enix has always been better when they focus on what they do best, and that is the Japanese style games and bringing that to a worldwide audience. Taking their games that are built in Japan and saying, hey, we can sell this in Japan and we can sell it worldwide, and not taking games that generally just focus on the Western market and trying to kind of morph into something that they're not, which the president of Square Enix said himself, that when Japanese developers start trying to be more like Western companies, it just doesn't work. And that's exactly what went down with Crystal Dynamics and with Tomb Raider and Deus Ex. It needed someone else that was going to take care of it and focus on it, and Square Enix needed to get back to the fundamentals about what made them what they are, and that is the stuff that we're going to talk about right here. And I think that even if you look at the whole Square Enix Presents and how they did things when they had Tomb Raider and all that, and how bad those shows were, and then even after, look at the most recent Final Fantasy VII event. It was just focused on that. That's what people want. Look at the Dragon Quest event that went down not too long ago. It was focused on what people want with these epic and iconic franchises, where we hear about a variety of projects that they're working on with the games that we love and we know from Square Enix. That works way better than trying to appease the Western market in a Nintendo Direct style with IPs that aren't Square Enix, that aren't you at the end of the day. So what Square Enix is doing now, we obviously saw with the fantastic Final Fantasy VII event, they're leveraging that IP. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I mean, those are the type of announcements that Square Enix can do that can really shake things up and get people extremely excited, and forget about the whole Tomb Raider sale and deal. People have been waiting for something like this for 15 years because Crisis Core has been stuck on the PSP with a single analog stick for such a long time. But they're bringing back these big RPGs, and they're bringing back these games with stunning graphics and on modern platforms, and it's very exciting in a multitude of new ways. And I think that if you look at what they're doing, right, they had the whole Kingdom Hearts event as well. They're kind of going into like this 2-tier type of thing, actually even somewhat 3-tier type of thing, where they have their biggest IP, the big blockbusters. So stuff like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. They have Kingdom Hearts as well. Kingdom Hearts 4. That's going to be a huge game, absolutely huge game. They have Dragon Quest 12, which they've already talked about too as well. So they are really going into that space where they have these massive IPs. Even just look at the reveal and the buzz that a major game like Final Fantasy 16 is having right now. Yes, there's a big departure from what they've done, but the game does look incredible, and they can invest the type of funds that they need to put into when it comes to games like that, because I feel that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be an absolutely incredible experience at this point after looking at the trailers and everything. And that's what Square Enix needs to do. They need to focus their funds, because this stuff is just getting more and more expensive, right? So they need to focus their funds and their time and their effort on what's going to be best for them going forward. And to me, Final Fantasy 16 kind of shows, okay, we're back. We're doing what we want to do with this type of game, and we're going to make something that's different, because Final Fantasy games have always changed up things every now and then with the combat and what they do, and they're known for that. And sometimes it can be polarizing, but at the end of the day, you're talking about it and you're going to try it out. You're going to play it. So I feel that this is really what Square Enix needs to do going forward, and Final Fantasy 16 is kind of embodying everything with what I'm trying to say here from the massive standpoint and what they're doing with their games going forward, all the way down to what they're doing with the other stuff which we've been talking about. But in between that, they have the smaller things that kind of tend to the old school fans out there, which I love. Stuff like Octopath Traveler, Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, Triangle Strategy, and also what's already been leaked pretty much at this point, and it's happening, Final Fantasy Tactics, the remastered game, which maybe we get at a Nintendo Direct. Maybe the announcement is there, because these type of games fit Nintendo so well, and a lot of the games beforehand, like Triangle Strategy, Octopath, those were revealed at Nintendo events. So I feel that this is what Square Enix is really good at. This is what Square Enix does well, and this is exactly what I felt that they were going to do post the sale of Tomb Raider and all that. Because listen guys, I get it, people like the franchise, and I know there's going to be people in the chat saying, oh, but this, but that, but sometimes you have addition by subtraction. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes you gain more by getting rid of something that's slowing you down. And I just think that while Tomb Raider is fantastic, I think the games are great and Deus Ex is great, obviously they didn't know exactly what to do with those in order to make those more profitable and make them a staple into the lineup, right? Because whenever a Final Fantasy game launches, it's extremely profitable for them, and everything just goes really well for most of the Final Fantasy games, where they're getting fat deals or bags from Sony for these games. But with Tomb Raider and all that, if you look at their sales reports and everything, it wasn't like they were making money hands over fist with these type of games. And Deus Ex has been dead for quite some time. So you might as well cut that fat off and give it to somebody else that's willing to eat the fat off of there, right? Give it to somebody else that's willing to nurture it and like it, and give those teams the true support that they need. So for me, I felt that this was a way for them to refocus, and I never really bought into the whole NFT type of stuff, which Square Enix did come out and say, hey, we're not really going to be doing that, because I saw that the market was crashing and Square Enix essentially just put out something there for investors. But at the end of the day, they weren't going to sit there and spend 300 million that they were getting from the sale that wasn't even necessarily all finished up or whatever the case is, and just spend that all into a dying market where it's going down like left and right, right? They're going to take that, they're going to reinvest into what they need to do, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that with a lot of different games that are coming, and I'm very excited for the future of Square Enix, because I think that they have, once again, multi-tiered approach with their AA type of games, with their big AAA games, with their old school stuff. They need to get a little bit better with that. They do have their mobile games that they're doing, which I'm not too big into, but it's exciting for those who are into mobile as well. But I think that Square Enix has a very good opportunity after this whole thing to really invest more into the AA space, into the Octopath, into the Dragon Quest III HD2E, into the Triangle Strategy, Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered, bring back some of those classic IPs and bring them back in certain types of ways, remaster them, nice, really high quality remasters, high quality remakes like Trials of Mana, stuff like that is what I feel Square Enix does best. And I think that now they are finally leveraging that, or at least showing what they've been doing with that, because this Final Fantasy event was absolutely amazing. They showed us two really big games with Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 on there, and also with Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII as well, the remastered game. So that's awesome. That is just awesome to see, and I feel that Square Enix is going to be a focused company going forward, and they really are going to show off some really cool things, and there's more that they can do. Obviously stuff like Pixel Remaster, right? People want that on consoles as well. So I think that that's something that they can look into doing, because why not at this point? People really like that. And between that and all the other stuff that they've been doing with their classic IPs and also with their big new games too. Heck, I haven't even mentioned Forspoken as well, which that's looking like it could be a good game. It's kind of like on the fence right now, but even then, that's still a big game as well that they have, that they're working on, that they're trying to make better, and that they made the right call, right? They made the right call and delayed the game so they can improve the quality of it. So I feel that Square Enix is on the right path, and they're doing exactly what I felt they would do after the sale. And I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. Now, they're not perfect. Obviously, there's some stuff that they can do better. Nobody is perfect, but at the end of the day, they are working towards getting better and better from what I've been seeing, and I'm thoroughly impressed, especially with that Final Fantasy VII event, Crisis Core. I mean, that was big. That made the event right then and there, and it wasn't long. It was only about 10 minutes, a little bit over that, so it's not like they took up all of our time and everything. So great stuff all around. Very cool to see Square Enix kind of get back to it, and it's awesome and exciting. This is going to be pretty good. So what do you guys think about Square Enix and what's going on here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.